right, everybody, one of the best in the business is on the show today. If you search him up on Google, you'll know, and you should already know already, that he was the 2015 National Championship Game Defensive MVP. He's a national champion, and he's one of the hottest voices in the Cleveland sports media right now. He's also doing things down in Columbus, too, and for the Big Ten Network. My guy, Tyvis Powell, is everywhere right now. Tyvis, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. You was just chomping on something before we started recording. What you eating over there?
You know, a little Cheesecake Factory. You know, my kids, my daughter wanted to, for some odd reason, she wanted some Cheesecake Factory. So, you know, hit up the little DoorDash, got me a little chicken sandwich, had some fries and a little salad on the side. You know, trying to stay healthy as much as I can, but that chicken sandwich was calling today.
Yeah, I know. I've had some stuff from Cheesecake Factory. They know how to do it over there.
For sure. No, for sure. Like that is, it's a go-to thing. You know, they got, obviously the menu is so big, like whatever you into, like they got it. So it's always a great choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I remember when I was on the set of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show with you guys in May, and you walked in, you know, just for a normal day at work, and I heard you say you was coming in from Columbus, because you live in Columbus, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you live in Columbus, and I was thinking, like, man, this dude drives once or twice a week in the morning for 2 hours, almost 2.5 hours, just on the norm. Is it like, does that 2-hour drive just feel normal at this point? Because a 2-hour drive isn't crazy, but it's not 30 minutes. So, like, for you, does that 2-hour drive now kind of feel like a 30-minute drive for you?
Well, you know, ever since, so for a while, it was, some weeks is harder than others, but for now that I'm doing this morning show down in Columbus, you know, it's a challenge now, because I get off the radio down here at 8:55 and we start the Cleveland show at 11. So it's always a race to see if I can get there, which keeps me like engaged. So I actually like it now, because I'm like trying to beat the clock so it's like a challenge to me. So I made it fun for myself to where it doesn't really bother me or something I think about. I guess I'm just used to it. I've been doing it for 3 years now. So it's like, it's just another day for me.
Yeah, that's cool to hear. But when we talk about all the things that you're doing, obviously you play as a Buckeye, you had a career in the NFL. But while you were undergoing, you know, your football career, did you ever imagine that you'd be doing as much as you're doing as like a radio, TV, sports guy like right now? Like, did you ever imagine that this is what you'd be doing the way you're doing it right now?
When I was done playing football, when I was getting towards the end of football, I always told myself, you know, there was two things I wanted to do. I either wanted to coach or I wanted to be an analyst. And obviously that coaching life is all day long. It's like you really don't have a life. And, you know, for me, the analyst thing came about because, so let me tell you, I was playing after I got cut during COVID from the NFL. I was with the Denver Broncos. I had signed a futures deal, so I was supposed to be there for OTAs and training camp and all that stuff. And COVID hit. And once COVID hit, you know, in the offseason, NFL rosters is 90 men. When COVID hit, they cut it down to 75. So I was a part of the 15 people that got cut, you know, just because of COVID. Yeah. And what I found out in 2020 was it's very hard to get back into the league that year, because they were so strict. You know, you had to be vaccinated. Then when you had to come for a workout, you had to get there, you know, quarantine for 3 or 4 days, then work out. And it was so hard for free agents to get a job that year, because it was just so much that you had to do to even get signed. So after 2020, after that whole entire football season went and I didn't get signed with anybody, I knew that I had to go to the CFL, Canadian Football League, to get some tape. And I went to the CFL, and this is where it got bad. So over there, again, they were big on the vaccination. And I was like, if you know me, I don't really do nothing. Like, I'm a homebody. Like, I go to work and that's it. Yeah. So I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm not about to be out. Why do I need to be vaccinated? Now, mind you, I'm over there and I'm the starting safety. We in training camp. I'm the starting safety. I'm getting picks. I'm making plays, everything. So I'm like, at this point, I'm like, oh, we good. Like making the team wasn't even the part of like, I'm already on the team in my mind. So we get to the last day of cuts and they call me in and they cut me. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, why would they cut me? Like, that don't even make sense. Like, I've been running with the ones. I'm leading the camp in picks. Like, why would they cut me? And he couldn't really give me a good answer. Like, he was trying to BS me a little bit. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, so like at this point, like I think what am I in 2021? That was 4 years ago. So I'm 27 years old. So I'm saying like, bro, I'm 27. Like I'd have been in the business of the NFL. Like you can't BS a BSer. Like I know what's going on. So like, why don't you just shoot it to me straight? And he really like, I guess he was kind of taken back that I had that type of attitude towards it. But it's like, dude, like you don't understand. Like to me, this is my final shot. Like if I don't make it in the CFL, like there's no way that I can make it back to the NFL. Like I can't even make it in the CFL, so I'm gonna make it in the NFL. So that was my thought. Come to find out, it really had to do with the vaccination. Like I didn't get vaccinated, and everybody was getting vaccinated. And to me, when I got cut for that reason, it really like broke my spirit, because for me, like I've been playing the game since I was 9 years old, and like I dedicated myself to, you know, being good at football, like literally sacrificing, like don't go out doing extra reps, extra film, weight room, like all that stuff. I literally dedicated my life to that. And you telling me that the reason that I can't play the game I love is because of a vaccination? Like it's like politics involved. And to me, like for the first time, it wasn't about how good or bad I was. It wasn't that I wasn't doing something. It had something that had nothing to do with football. And for that to control my destiny, like just broke me. So for a long time, I just kind of sat in the basement in the dark, really didn't know what I wanted to do in my life, because I was so hurt by the fact that this just happened. And it took my wife my now wife to have a conversation with me. You know, I remember it like it was yesterday. She was on her way to work. She was a school teacher. She was on her way to work. Before she left, I was down in the basement, and she says, "Is this what you gonna do with your life? Like this is what it's gonna be, huh?" She like, "I'm getting ready to go to work, but you need to figure something out." And I'm like it hit me, boom. So that's when I started to reach out to people to try to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And luckily, I had some connections from, you know, being a Buckeye and being on the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer. They connected me with this guy by the name of Ty Markowitz, who was the general manager at the radio station down here. And I pretty much told him what I wanted to do. And he said, "You know what? I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'm gonna give you opportunity to be on the air." He said, we need somebody to call high school football games. Now, mind you, I've never called a high school football game in my life. Not play by play, but like color commentary. Like, you know, you describe what happened on the play. So I did that for high school football down in Columbus, and I really, really enjoyed it. And it just opened up an opportunity for me to do shows during the week. And I had a lot of fun doing that. And I was like, man, I found a lot of joy in just being able to talk about the game, articulate the game, help people understand what's going on the field or what goes through an athlete's mind. And pretty much that's kind of how I got to where I am today. So that was a long-winded answer, but I needed to give everybody that background, that rundown to how I got into being an analyst.
Yeah, I love that for sure. You mentioned coach. I'm gonna get back to, you know, how you got with the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show from the high school football gig, but you mentioned undergoing like the effects of COVID throughout the NFL. Other than what you described, like what were kind of some of the other things that changed about the league that were kind of unfortunate for players during that time?
Well, like I say, COVID was a big thing. They upped the roster on practice squad guys, so that gave a lot of people some chances to do it. But the thing about the NFL is what I learned from day one. The first thing you hear all the older cats say is you got to control what you can control, and when they first said it, like you literally hear it like 100 times. Like just
Yeah.
control what you could control. Like don't and when you're a young dude, like it's so hard because you're so worried about, trying to get coaches to trying to impress this coaches. I hope this coach like me and all of those things. And at the end of the day, it took me. I'm gonna be honest with you. It took me. I say my last year took me all the way to year 4 to realize that like I only can be me. Like at the end of the day, like the numbers thing, like I got cut for number reasons. For example, you on the 53-man roster. You playing, let's say you the second or third string corner. Let's say for this example, let's say you the third string corner.
Yeah.
Let's say that the starting DN gets hurt. And he's out for, let's say he's out for this example, let's say he's out for 3 weeks. Let's say he rolled his ankle, he out for 3 weeks. So they're not going to put him on IR because he could come back. If you go on IR, that's mandatory 4 weeks. So they're not going to do that. So what they got to do is they got to cut from other areas to bring in another defense in. And if you're the third string corner, so you the fifth or sixth corner, they'll say, oh, we don't need that guy. We need to bring in another guy. So you get cut. Literally, you could be balling in practice, but like due to the fact that somebody else got hurt, that can affect your status.
Yeah.
And there was just a lot of that going on. And, that is just life in the league, So that's something that really can mess with you mentally. And that was something that had my head spinning a lot, early on in my NFL career. So that's something right there. It's some stuff is just out of your hands, and it's just you just fall in unfortunate situations. That's just what the league is.
Yeah, I appreciate that insight right there. Getting back into really your crossover into the media space from football. Let's get into now how you kind of crossed over into the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Like, I talked to Mike about this just yesterday. It's a very unique show.
Yes.
You got all the biggest Cleveland personalities on one show, whether they're just on the show regularly or they're just guests. And the start of the show was definitely something that was, this is going to be a little different. So
yeah,
when we talk about the foundation of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, where did you kind of come in and kind of your immersion into the show, and what is your perspective of it being born?
So how I even heard about the show is when I was playing football at Ohio State, I had Coach Meyer made us do an internship down in Columbus. I think it was like 2014 maybe. And I did it at the place that I'm working at now, WBNS Channel 10 TV down here. I was interning there. And one of the camera guys, Sean Dunnigan, he was working down here. He has since then, now he works at Channel 3, KYC. He actually reached out to me and was like, hey, they're starting this show, this sports talk show. I wanted to run it by you to see if it was okay to float your name out there. And I'm like, yeah, we're gonna talk sports. We talking Cleveland sports, absolutely. Yeah. Float my name out there, see what happens. Now that conversation happened, and I'm like, all right, that's what it is. Like I ain't worried about that. Like that's never like okay. If it happens, cool. But like I'm trying to figure out other things at this point.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I get a call from Steve Becker, and I didn't answer it because I didn't have Steve's number, but he left me a voicemail, and I called him back, and he was basically saying like, hey, we're starting this show. It's going to be Cleveland sports. We're getting such and such on there, blah, blah, blah. And we want to offer you 1 day a week. We want you to come on every Wednesday and be a part of the show.
Yeah. So
I'm like, cool, absolutely. He gave me the rate of what it's going to be a day. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's cool. I can do that for sure. Yeah. And I remember so they had like rundowns. They had like practice run throughs. I couldn't do them because I was doing. I think I was on the Buckeye cruise actually, so I couldn't do the practice runs. So walking in there day one. So the first day of the show was a Wednesday. It was my day. It was my day I was supposed to be on. I didn't know Jay. I didn't know Bull, and I didn't know G.
Wow.
I had no chemistry with none of them. I have never met them prior to that first day.
Yeah.
And I remember just going on there, and we did the show for that first day. And I just remember like, oh yeah, this is nice. Yeah. This is nice. Like this, I like this. So I fell in love with the show, and obviously we've been growing since then, but that first year, like a lot of people don't know, it was rough, man. It was because we didn't have it wasn't no certainty that it would be another year. We just had like a 1 year deal, and we was gonna see where it was going. And I remember getting to the end of that year, and everybody like, do we still have jobs in January? Like, are we gonna have a job in January? And it literally went to like December, like around Christmas, until like we got an answer on it. And luckily, we've been successful, and the show's been growing. Like you say, just having different personalities, just having the professionalism from Jay, having G Bush, go off the rails sometimes and say something that's just like he said. G Bush is one of those people that say what you thinking, but you don't necessarily know if you should say it. He wanted them, and then you got Bull who just don't care. He just gonna say exactly what he feels. He's pretty bold. Like it's just to have those personalities and mix with those guys. Then we were able to add, Dustin Fox, who Dustin is a lot like G. Like a lot of the things that he thinking, like I'm thinking, he says. And then Jason, just having that insider that comes in there and tells you like this is what the front office is thinking. I'm talking to this coach and I know this and that, and it's so nice to have that mixture of people. And I think we ultimately get together. It's a family. Like, even though we might argue on air, like I promise y'all, like off the air, it's all love. We would do anything for each other, and it's a great family. So I'm glad that show has been successful. It's been it's probably one of my funnest jobs that I got. I got 5 of them. I really enjoy that. That's why that 2-hour drive don't feel bad to me, because I'm like excited to get there and talk to these guys.
I love that. Yeah. I asked Mike this yesterday too, but I want to know your answer too. Out of all the guys that you work with over at UCSS, who's the dude that over time you've grown the closest to?
Earl the Pearl. My boy Earl. That's like, so I didn't know Earl before this either. Earl is our producer. He's one of our producers, and he's on set sometimes. I didn't know Earl at all. Like, I think I met Earl through G. Like, G Bush had like this thing. He was recording his barbershop, and that's when I met Earl. And, just talking to Earl, man, he a very authentic guy, man. And like, I guess like I didn't come from as much of a rough upbringing as he did. His was way worse than mine's. But like I still understand everything because like it's similar. Like it's not all the way the same. His is worse than mine, but like I can relate to everything that he be saying and how he feeling. And man, just the conversations that we've had off air and just checking up on each other. And obviously he's been through some things, just being there for him. Like that's my brother. That dude has grown into my brother. Like not even blood could make us closer. Like that's my dog.
Yeah, I love to hear that, man. All right, so let's pivot to some Browns a little bit. It's day 4 of training camp. I'm hearing Shedeur had a really, really good day. I think he went like 8 for 11 on the ESPN Cleveland. And I bring up the QB tracker to you because you're a former player, and I kind of want to know your opinion on it. Like, as a former player, when we think about stuff like the QB tracker and even performance outside of what the quarterbacks do, like from any position, how careful should fans be about putting weight on a really good training camp performance and vice versa? How careful should they be putting weight on a bad training camp performance from a player's perspective?
Yeah, I mean it's fun for the fans because basically how I look at it is it's fun for people that can't go see practice, like. So the thing about the tracker and why you shouldn't put a ton of weight into it is because you don't know what period it is. You don't know what the quarterbacks is working on that day. You don't know what the receivers or the DBs or the D line. You don't know anything. You don't know if it was a sack on the play. You don't know if it was a check down. Like you don't know these things. You just see stats and automatically think, oh, he went 8 for 11 with 3 touchdowns. He had a great day. But what if 8 out of them 11s was check downs and the running back made something happen and scored? Like that's like, is that really make him that great? Like that's what I'm saying. So I don't put a lot of stock into it. It's fun though. It's fun. It gives you something to talk about. But unless you at practice and seeing exactly what's going on, you can't put a ton of weight into those things. And for me, when I look at when I'm looking at practice, I'm looking for consistency. I want to listen to these reports. I want to know consistently who's doing the best, who's doing the most. Not somebody that just had a great day. Okay, so what did he do the next day? Okay, well the next day he went 0 for 4. Like that's pointless to me. So to me, if you really from being in the NFL, I can tell you the number one thing that everybody chases consistency. If you want to be in there for a long time, you got to consistently be good, and that's what I'm looking for. And I tell everybody, when you want to start paying attention to what's going on in practice, wait till them join practice. Wait till they get that one practice with Carolina and they get those practices with Philadelphia. When you hear the reports out of that, okay, now you can start putting some stock into it. Yeah. But right now, like guys is still trying to get a feel for things, with Shedeur, and like his thing is he's not taking reps with the ones. So if he's doing this, if it's against the twos or the threes, if it's the threes, it's like some of these guys might not even be on the team. Some of these guys might not even be in the NFL after this. So like it's so hard for me to put a lot of weight into it. I need to see him, with the ones or the twos more often to see, be able to judge him. So I can't wait to these preseason games and I can't wait to these joint practices.
Okay, yeah. So even preseason games too, because people I see tend to put some weight on preseason games too. So like what? Kind of same question, but now think of it as less of training camp, more of a preseason aspect.
Yeah. In the preseason, it goes like this. So for game one, that's kind of the penciled in depth chart. That's kind of, they went through training camp. It's been a couple of movement, but they got to see it against other teams. They want to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
And you'll see guys make some plays, but the thing what you have to remember is it's all a basic game plan. It's very vanilla because one, no NFL team wants to show the rest of the NFL what they're doing. They don't want them to be like, oh, they running these plays this year, so let's prepare for this. Yeah. Like they don't want to show that. So you'll see a very basic game plan. The preseason to me is about who's playing the fastest because it's not a lot of thinking. It's not going to be a lot of thinking involved. It's just about being able to read and react and make football plays. You'll see that depth chart start to switch around. It's 3 preseason games. I'd say that second preseason game is about when you really want to lock in, especially that third preseason game where people let in that third preseason game. That's kind of pretty much locked in because some teams, and I think like Cincinnati, like they're playing Joe Burrow every game this year. Some teams play their starters more often. Some teams don't. You have to pay attention to that. But for me, I'm definitely going to be paying attention to that depth chart and seeing who's where, especially around game 2 or game 3, especially game 3. When game 3 come around, whoever, if the ones is out there, that's pretty much who you're going to see when they kick the ball off against Cincinnati.
Yeah. I might be going a little off track here, but you mentioned the Bengals possibly playing Joe Burrow in all 3 preseason games. Do you think they kind of want to do that because they're prone to like slow starts at the beginning of the season? And do you think preseason is kind of underrated into preventing those type of things for starters and getting them out there?
Yeah, I think that's the reason that I think Joe Burrow, he probably wants to play in all these games because they can't afford a slow start. If you look at the Bengals first like 6 games, the first 2 games is the Browns in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
At worst, they got to go 1-1. They got to go 1-1 because after that, they playing like the Vikings, the Lions, the Packers, like all these good teams. And if that defense isn't right, it's going to be hard to win a lot of those games. So I think for Joe Burrow and that offense, the reason that they want to play in those preseason games, they want to start off fast because last year they turned it on, but it was too late. Like the damage had been done when they figured out their offense. I think they want to from game 1 be able to be clicking on all cylinders just in case that defense isn't fixed, which they haven't made a ton of moves on the defensive side of the ball this year. And I know they signed Shamar Stewart yesterday, so they got him, but Trey Hendrickson is still not there. Their best defensive player is not there. And if they're going to win a lot of games this year, it's probably going to be because they have to outscore a lot of people. So I think Joe Burrow and the rest of that offense understands that, and they're trying to clicking on all cylinders that game 1 against the Browns.
Yeah. Let's say somebody comes to you from the future and is telling you about the Browns season, and they say the defense is one of the best defenses in the league. If you had to make a prediction based off of that, would you make the prediction that the Browns are at least in the end 7-8 win team if the defense is really, really like one of the best? Or is it higher than 7-8?
I think it's higher than 7 and 8. This is the
Yeah.
thing, and I'm trying to get people to understand this because I've been predicting that the Browns win 7 or 8 games this year,
Yeah.
and everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. But the thing is, the NFL it changes year to year. You know, last year it was the Commanders. The year before that, the Commanders stunk. They had the second pick in the draft. Like nobody thought anything of the Commanders. As a matter of fact, when you played the schedule game before last season, when you saw the Commanders, you probably say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna win that game." Like guaranteed, that's a dub.
Yeah, that's exactly what we thought.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you see the Commanders go out there. Obviously, they hit on Jaden Daniels. I'm thinking about Malik Neighbors. They hit on Jaden Daniels, and obviously, you know, they were able to change some things up on offense. They got some good veteran players to come in there, and everybody gelled, and the chemistry was there, and they was able to make some things happen. I say all that to say, why can't the Browns be that team this year? You know, when you look at as bad as the Browns was, it was probably one of the worst Browns teams we've seen since the 0-16 season.
Yeah.
And yet, if you go back and look at the Browns' record or schedule and seeing some of those games, they lost a handful of games by 7 or less points. So as bad as they were, ranked 32nd in offense, and the defense fell off a cliff, yet they still only lost by 1-score games. If they can patch that up and that defense can be clicking, they can win those games. With Kevin Stefanski going back to what he knows, they can win more games than 3 games. And I think that if that defense is lights out like they were 2 years ago and they continue to get the ball back to the offense, you're giving yourself more chances to be able to punch it in. So I know that the roster isn't great. I know that they haven't made any splash offseason moves. But I just kind of got a feeling that like they can find a way to pull 7 or 8 wins this season.
Yeah, I also think the Browns' defensive depth is really underrated. And when we talk about mainly the defensive line being the main gear of what makes that defense go, do you think it's going to be more up to the defensive tackles and the depth there that really is able to aid Myles Garrett and helping them be the gear that makes the defense go? Or do you think it's more about Alex Wright or Isaiah McGuire being that helper in terms of getting a good pass rush next to Myles?
Yeah, it's definitely the defensive tackles for the simple fact that 2 reasons. One, those defensive tackles are pivotal this year because of the fact that you don't have Jordan Hicks, you don't have JOK anymore at linebacker. So those guys have to do it. The defensive tackles I'm talking about, they got to do a great job of being able to keep our linebackers' jerseys clean. What I mean by that is usually in every play, there's a double team. The double team starts with the guard and the center. Mm-hmm. And then the center he pushes up to the second level and get to the linebackers. If that happens, I don't know how. I'm not that confident that we can get off blocks. That's how you create those seams. If they can get a hat on those linebackers. But if that defensive tackle is really good and that center can't get to the second level because that guard can't handle them one-on-one, now your linebackers are moving freely and they're able to roll around and make plays. Same thing for the passing game. Everybody knows that Myles Garrett is going to be double teamed. It's going to happen every single play. Yeah. If Myles Garrett is double teamed, that means there's a bunch of singles going on. Yeah. 5 guys. It's 5 guys on the offensive line. There's 4 D linemen. If 2 of them is going to Myles, that means 3 of them is one-on-ones. If these defensive tackles can win their one-on-one, then they can make a lot of noise happen. If that's the case, it probably won't ever happen, but maybe if they're that good, maybe they say, you know what, we got to double up a tackle, and now Myles Garrett is free, and that's not what you want to happen either. So those defensive tackles are going to be a pivotal role. The good news is that Jim Schwartz has a history of making Pro Bowlers out of that defensive tackles. Did a ton of it when he was with Philadelphia. Obviously, with the Lions, he had that. Hopefully Mike Hall and Malik Collins and Mason Graham, hopefully those 3 guys can be that this year. And if they can do that and get that push, that it will clear up a lot. You know, Jim Schwartz calls that the D-line the engine of the defense, which I understand. You know, if you think about a couple of years ago, Myles had one of his best seasons because he was moving around, he was making plays. And what does that do? That helps the secondary out. Now I'm not covering for 5 to 6 seconds. Now I can step in front of something because the quarterback is throwing it too early. Like it's so much that can happen from that D-line being very aggressive. So I'm expecting to see that this year.
All right, yeah, Tyvis. So as we close this interview out, I know you played with Sherm, Earl Thomas, Cam
Yeah.
Chancellor. I want to know like one of your favorite stories just being in a DB room with those guys.
Well, they are. For them to be what I learned is I understood why they were successful. You know, the way that they prepared, their preparation was unbelievable. You know, Earl was a guy that, you know, every time I seen Earl, he had an iPad in his hand and he was watching film. Like he watched film all day long, and I understood why he was prepared. Cam was a guy who just physically, like in practice, like he got himself prepared, you know, from taking reps, the way he took care of his body, the way he watched what he ate. It was just, I was like, dude, I understand. Like, I get it now. I see why you able to be knocking dudes out. Mm-hmm. And then Sherm is Sherm verbally harassed me. You know, Sherm is like the big brother that I never really wanted. Sherm was one of those guys that was locked in. Like he was so smart and he just understood the game just differently. And just being able to talk to him and see how he break things down and see what he was looking at and be like, you should know this is coming because of this. And I'd be like, dang, I ain't never think of it like that. So he was just, his intelligence was just ridiculous. But I say all that to say, as much as those guys prepare, they were the funnest people I've ever been around. They knew how to have a good time, man. They had some jokes. The hazing that I had to go through, because I was one of those. I was one of those rookies that was like, so this is, let me tell you. So we sit there practice, and they say, hey, Rook, why don't you carry my helmet? Why don't you carry my helmet back to the locker room? And I looked at them and I said, you should carry my helmet back to like what I look like carrying your life. So I used to always joke around and have pushback, and there was a bunch of consequences that came with it. Like as far as like taking my per diem and making me go get chicken and stuff like that. But it was all love. And what I realized is, you know, those guys had my back, man. Like no matter what, like they always fought for me. Even to this day, you could pick the phone up and call those guys and they would still answer. And like Cam, when I was in San Francisco, Cam, I made my first start as a safety when I was in San Fran. Yeah. And I remember talking to Cam, and Cam was like telling me like, all right, you're going to be starting. This is what you need to look for, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, like I appreciate you, you know, looking out. He said, don't worry, I'm going to be watching, because it was a Thursday night game. He's like, I'll be watching. Yeah. Like, Cam ain't going to watch that. So we get to halftime of that game. I had dropped this pick in the game. We get to halftime of the game when I check my phone in the locker room. Cam sent me a text like, I can't believe you dropped that ball. What are you doing? Like that type of thing. So I was like, it was funny to have that input. And yeah, like those guys was just real, man. Like those are probably the realest football players that I've ever played with. The way that they've, you know, helped me evolve as a football player and, you know, expanded my mind and sped it up and made me a better football player. Like I truly thank them for that. And just real good dudes, man. Like I thought they would be selfish because, you know, like they're starters. What the heck are they going to help an undrafted guy for? And they was like, they took a lot of pride in the fact that you in our room, you in our DB room. Mm-hmm. When you leave here, you're a product of us. So if you're not doing well, they're going to say that that's because of us. And they say, you ain't about to mess up our name. So those guys actually spend a ton of time with, you know, undrafted guys or guys that probably might not make the team. They were always looking out for those guys because they wanted those guys to go somewhere and be successful. So, yeah, you don't really see that a lot in the NFL. Those guys were special.
Yeah, I love that, man. Tyvis, thank you so much again for your time, man. This is one of my favorite conversations on the interview I've ever had. So anytime you want to come back on, I'll be racing to the phone to make it happen, man.
I appreciate you for allowing me to get on, man. Can't wait to
Yeah,
see how you do it down at Ohio State, man. I know you're gonna have a wonderful time. And hey, man, I'm in Columbus, so anytime you need
yeah.
something, let me know.
Appreciate that, man. But everybody, this is the one and only Tyvis Powell, who's doing everything in the world right now. Hope you guys enjoyed the interview. My name is Maliq Hicks. Appreciate you guys for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace.